leaves are falling and the jack-o'-lanterns are lit. Winter will soon be here, but not before we face our fears, embrace the darkness, and ponder the oddities of the world. Welcome to the Halloween episode of Strange by Nature. I'm your host, Kirk Mona, along with Victoria Thompson and Rachel Gimza. Armed with decades of experience, we are pleased to bring you all that is weird and wonderful about the natural world.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Good to see you guys.
Oh, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
So excited.
Favorite episode of the year.
We've been talking about stuff we've had, been trying to find topics and stuff. So I'm always so excited to see what the two of you have come up with.
Well,
I'm very intrigued, Kirk, because you also have been teasing your topic.
Well, I figured it out like 6 months ago, so I've been trying not to tease it too much.
Okay. With my topic, I'm starting out this week. With my topic, you might think there's some repetition going on, but just roll with me for the moment.
Interesting. Okay. All right, intrigued already.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, when I came across this story a few months ago, I knew right away this was a good Halloween candidate. So there is this great old movie from the 1950s called The African Queen, starring Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. My parents loved it. We used to watch it when I was a kid. Katharine Hepburn plays this sort of uptight missionary in Central Africa. This is 1914 that it's set. And her brother dies of a fever just as World War I is declared. So she has to team up with Humphrey Bogart's character, who's this like crusty, hard-drinking riverboat captain. And they try to escape down the river in his boat, which is named the African Queen, hence the name of the movie. And the Germans have control of the river and this large lake that it empties into. So they gradually kind of warm to each other, and they get this crazy idea to go down the uncharted rapids and then to the lake and try to use improvised torpedoes to sink the German ship that patrols the lake. And
All right.
As they're approaching the lake, the river spreads out into this vast delta with no main channel. And so the boat gets stuck. And at one point, Bogart has to get out and drag the boat with a rope.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, in one of the movie's most memorable scenes, he hauls himself out of the swamp. He's exhausted, he's defeated, and he suddenly realizes that he's absolutely covered in enormous leeches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, this scene made quite an impression on me as a child.
I bet.
And leeches certainly arouse disgust in a whole lot of people. It's not hard to understand why. At this point, if you're a long-term listener, this may all be sounding a little familiar. Kirk did an episode a while back about leeches, and he, in fact, opened with a movie scene. Different movie. It was Stand By Me.
Movie. Yeah.
And at the time, Kirk, I just went back and re-listened to this episode. You mentioned that leeches would have actually been a good Halloween topic. Rest assured, I've taken a bit of a different angle here. So this is not going to be a total repeat in spite of, certainly similarities in how I opened my scenario here.
So let me guess, you're talking about leeches.
I am talking about leeches.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But in that episode, you mentioned that there are land leeches, including this horrifying foot-long one that they found in a New Jersey backyard.
Don't like that.
Most land leeches, though, are found in the tropics, and they can live on the ground, sometimes sort of the understory of rainforests. As much of a nightmare as that already is, I am going to add some more fuel to the nightmare with this episode.
Excellent.
I hate this.
And to kick this off, I'm actually going to tell you another story about a man named Ibn Battuta, who was a great traveler in the 13th century. He was born in present-day Morocco, and he traveled really for a lot of his life, extensively around the Middle East, but then he went to Northern Africa, Eastern Africa, and across Central Asia into India, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and eventually China.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the real famous dude.
Yes, he is. He was, in fact, the greatest traveler of the pre-modern era in terms of he went the farthest.
Mm-hmm.
And we know all about this because toward the end of his life, he dictated his memoirs, and they have survived unto this day. There's one particular incident from Ibn Battuta's travels that is relevant here, and this is from when he was visiting in what is now Sri Lanka, and I will quote, "In this place we saw the flying leech, which they call Zulu.
No.
Nope, stop, Victoria. We've heard enough.
No.
Next topic.
We're done. No. You brought us flying snakes. You brought us flying spiders,
leeches.
And now you're bringing us flying leeches? No.
That's right.
I'm leaving.
Well, not quite flying. Let me read a little bit more of Ibn Battuta's memoir. "It is found in trees and in the vegetation near water. When a man approaches, it jumps out at him, and wheresoever it alights on his body, the blood flows. The inhabitants keep a lemon in readiness for it. They squeeze this over it, and it falls off them. Then they scrape the place on which it alighted with a wooden knife, which they have for the purpose.
Oh, no.
It is related that a certain traveler was passing by this place, the leeches fastened on him. He took no notice and did not squeeze lemons on them, but he lost so much blood that he died."
I mean, that sounds like an urban legend, but amazing.
Whether or not that's true, we, of course, cannot really know. But I will say in the centuries since, especially in the last 150 years or so, there's been a lot of debate about whether jumping leeches actually exist. And there's been back and forth, there's some anecdotes from various people besides Ibn Battuta about jumping leeches. There have been scientific papers saying, no, there are no jumping leeches. People are confused. They're just falling down onto them.
And not just like that they exist, but they exist in such numbers that people routinely carried around a special wooden knife just for scraping them off because it was like an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, don't forget the lemon.
Well, yeah, and the lemon, yeah. I figured the lemons were just growing in the area, but like that's wow. Tell us more.
Well, now thanks to a video shot in Madagascar by a graduate student, we know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
The answer is yes, there are jumping leeches.
Yeah, funny thing, I saw this video
that wasn't the answer I wanted, Victoria.
Randomly. So I've seen the jumping leech, and I was like, wow, that'd be a great topic, and I'm really glad I didn't pick it.
Yep. Now, as it turns out, the definition of what jumping is pretty contentious and debatable.
Yeah.
In this paper, which is titled "A Jumping Terrestrial Leech from Madagascar," they use the definition of an intentional movement that muscularly propels the organism outward and or upward. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah, which fair. Yes, so...
Sounds like a jump, yes.
Yeah. A lot of the debate, as I mentioned, was like, what, were these leeches just dropping down? There's also a well-known leech behavior where they attach the sucker on one end of their body to leaf, and then they just sort of stretch up and wave their body out. Right. Sort of like, how like ticks will kind of sit there and wait and wave their little arms and wait to grab onto a deer or a passing pant leg or whatever.
Unfortunately, yes.
Similarly, like the leech would just sort of have its head sucker waving out there until something passes by and it can attach on. That's definitely something they do. But this graduate student, my Fami, was working in Madagascar, and she just saw this little leech behaving weirdly on a leaf and got out her cell phone and captured a video. And it's this little brown leech from the genus, oh boy, this one's a tough one, Catanobdella. Goodness. So it kind of stands, if you look at the video, it kind of stands upright on the leaf. Then it coils itself back, like if you imagine a cobra preparing to strike.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it springs forward, pitching off the edge of the leaf and landing on another leaf on the forest floor, where it gets back upright again and starts waving around. So like, yeah, it jumps. I mean, it definitely is pushing itself forward. And this is, it seems, a type of leech that does attack mammals, including humans. So, yeah, there's at least one species of jumping leech to be found in Madagascar. Probably more out there.
I didn't need that, Victoria.
Well, it is Halloween.
Yeah.
But if we're not in Madagascar, we're probably okay.
Yeah. I mean, stay away from Sri Lankan rainforest and Madagascar rainforest and probably other rainforests.
Well, next time I go to a rainforest, I would bring a lemon and a wooden spoon.
Knife, Kirk, knife.
Are you going to eat the leech?
Oh, a spoon. No, knife, yeah. I don't know why I said spoon, because carving wooden spoons is fun, probably.
It is fun. I've seen people do it.
You could use the handle of the spoon, and then you have a spoon with you, because the wooden knife is only very good for two things. Apparently scraping off leeches and spreading butter. And I'm not going to be spreading a lot of butter in the rainforest, so a spoon could be handy, though. So you just handle the spoon. There you go.
Sure.
Done.
All right.
That's my quick logic to make up for the fact that I said the wrong utensil.
Interestingly, the actual research that this student was engaged in the rainforest was looking at collecting leeches to examine the DNA of the blood inside them from animals that they had fed on, which can be a really actually useful survey tool for animals that are otherwise elusive or hard to. How many are there? Are they around? You know, you can tell if there's lemur DNA in this leech that you collected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So kind of cool little sidebar there.
That's fun.
That is what I have. Jumping leeches, just to haunt your nightmares.
Fantastic.
It'll haunt
and
them.
That paper was published in Biotropica on June 20th, 2024 by Mai Fami and Michael Tessler. And I also was looking at a really good article in Science News. All right, we are going to take a break. And when we come back, it's going to be Kirk.
Yay! Hey everybody, before we get back to the show, one last reminder. We are just a couple days away from November. This is your very last chance to join the Society of Strange if you are an Apple user without paying this 30% exorbitant fee they're going to add on for all the Apple users. So if you want to get grandfathered in on our current prices and you're an Apple user in the Patreon app, check us out. The Society of Strange is part of Strange by Nature podcast on Patreon, and you can get in and lock in those prices. If you're not on one of those platforms, I mean, you can become a member as well. But we're down to like the last couple days to lock in the old prices before Apple jacks the prices up. So we appreciate people who've taken advantage of that sort of discount in advance. And we'll see a bunch of you there. Okay. So welcome back from the break. Happy Halloween. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about, this is going to be shocking. You guys sitting down? You're going to be really surprised.
I'm
talking down. About a bird species.
A bird species. Oh, what a surprise.
I know.
Color
you're shocked.
Me shocked.
Specifically, a finch from the Galapagos Islands. Now, finches on the Galapagos are pretty famous. Indeed, examining the beaks of finches in the Galapagos was a major factor leading to Darwin's theory of evolution, which is very cool. This week's bird species is what I want to talk about. Is in fact found on Darwin Island. I don't think it wasn't called that before he visited it, but Darwin Island. Though I will say it's also found on nearby Wolf Island as well. And the species in question is, here we go, Geospiza septentrionalis.
The true
I believe that's correct.
Horror of our Halloween episode is all of us trying to say Latin scientific names.
Yeah.
You have hit the nail on the head there, yes. It's quite a mouthful to pronounce. Probably also a mouthful if you're trying to eat it. They weigh about 20 grams.
Oh my god.
So about the same size as a white-breasted nuthatch, which is a bird that many of us in North American listeners would be familiar with. Not huge, but just sort of it would fill your mouth. That's a really weird frame of reference, but that's about what size it is.
Yeah.
It is a finch, though, so it has a very finch-like body shape. It doesn't look like a nuthatch or anything. Physically, the males are all black, and the females are gray with brown streaks. So not particularly remarkable.
They sound kind of boring.
Yeah, kind of. I think that's fair to say, as far as in the looks department go. And their diet is not surprisingly mostly seeds and invertebrates.
Okay.
As Darwin pointed out, physical habitat limitations drive speciation. Mm-hmm. And this species was actually once considered just a subspecies of another bird, the sharp-beaked ground finches. Mm-hmm. So there's a number of sharp-beaked ground finches, and for a while they were like, oh, this is just one more slightly different subspecies, but it has now been given its own designation as a unique species, which I think is very cool. Full species status. There is one very strong evolutionary pressure that these birds face on Darwin and Wolf Islands. There is very little water. These are basically, desert islands.
Yeah.
So the birds have found some interesting ways to get much needed water in their diet that they don't get from like eating seeds, which not surprisingly, right? So first up, birds can use their beaks to drink nectar from the flowers of the Galapagos prickly pear cactus that grow on the island, which I think is pretty cool.
That's awesome, yeah.
Not very Halloween-y, but very cool. They can also eat bat guano.
Gross.
And I guess bats Ew. Are a Halloween thing. Gross, but okay.
Wet, I suppose, if you're getting water.
If you get it fresh, I guess, yeah. They have also been, and this is very cool, they've been seen stealing eggs from birds like blue-footed boobies.
Oh, okay.
So they'll kind of sneak in, they'll push them out of the nest and roll them downhill a little bit and try to roll them into a rock so they'll crack open and then they can drink up the insides. And so it's like, okay. All right, now we're getting somewhere. We got tricks and treats, right? Maybe you could call a bird eating another bird's eggs cannibalism? Maybe. It's kind of a stretch. I don't know. They're not eating the same species.
Yeah.
But lucky for us, there is one more way for them to get a tasty treat on this water-deprived island.
I have a hunch. Given.
It has to do with that sharp beak.
Yeah.
Oh no.
The finches use their beak to puncture the skin
there it is.
Of the Nazca booby and the blue-footed boobies that live there.
There it is.
And they drink their blood.
Yep.
Kirk.
Oh yeah.
I
this
thought
bizarre
where
adaptation.
Going, but yeah.
Yep. Is giving them their common name, the vampire ground finch. And it just seems so Halloween-y. We got to talk about it. So you've heard of vampire bats, but we have vampire birds. And as you can imagine, on a desert island, having a supply of blood to drink would be very handy. But drinking blood isn't quite the same as drinking water. It is a little bit salty, though far less than seawater. Seawater is 3.5% salt, while blood is 0.8% salt. So not as salty. Mm-hmm. The big issue, though, I think is how do you digest all that blood? And one really cool thing I came upon when I was looking into this is that researchers have looked at the guts of these birds and discovered that their intestinal microbiome includes a type of Streptococci bacteria that's also found in the intestines of vampire bats.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So it's I don't know if they've quite figured out if this is a key thing, this actual bacteria somehow helping to break the blood down. It was just something that was noted. They're curious, it's
more research required.
Absolutely. Now, if you're picturing these small birds exsanguinating or draining boobies of blood and leaving them for dead, I fear I have either good news or bad news, depending on your hopes, I guess. The boobies are fine. Mm-hmm. They don't even seem to mind when this happens, which is really surprising. So I think the speculation is that the birds just think that the boobies, that is, they probably just assume that the smaller birds, the finches, are removing parasites. So they're, and it's very common for other smaller birds to be kind of rooting around in the feathers of the bigger bird, picking parasites out, and the bigger birds are like, "You're doing me a favor. That's cool." And that's probably how this behavior started. Is they were trying to find parasites living on these birds, and because of their sharp beak, they maybe accidentally pecked one too hard and was like, "Ooh,
water."
Look at this.
Well, kind of similar to the oxpecker.
Get a little treat.
That I talked about.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So, the vampire birds are not draining their victims dry, which is perhaps a lesson for all those human vampires in stories. If you take only a little blood, they let you do it, apparently. I'm not sure that would work on humans.
No.
Probably shouldn't try. So these are not very common birds. I will say that. I did look on eBird, and there've only been 25 total reports of ever seeing these birds entered into eBird, which some of you who are birders will know what that is. It's like an app where you can track your sightings. And part of that is because Darwin Island, which is where they're mostly found, is completely off limits to the public.
Okay.
So I'm assuming the people who have reported them on that island are researchers who are like studying that species, and they're like, hey, I'm going to add this onto my eBird list because I can. Wolf Island, you can actually visit, but there are a lot of restrictions on where humans can go because a big chunk of the island is just off limits. So for most of us, this is a species that we are never going to see except for, in pictures. But even if we can't go there, I want everyone to remember this Halloween, vampires are real and they want your blood. Well, if you're a booby, they want your blood. So that's what I have this week. Most of my information actually came from Wikipedia, which is great. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll find out what Rachel's got for us.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. So as you, Kirk, and Victoria were talking, I am not going to lie. I was kind of thinking this through and just like seeing connections between your stories and mine.
Oh, yeah.
Potentially they're just like little connections that I would make due to the fact that that's just how my brain works. Like I love finding patterns and things like that. However, let's get into a little bit of a spookier mood here. It's Halloween, or just about. Many people around this period, around this time of year, start to make their habit or start to incorporate going exploring into maybe more abandoned buildings or checking out haunted houses.
Sure.
Just crawling through
urban exploring.
A little bit of it, urban exploring, or like going into caves or anything like that. You could also find this particular phenomenon out in the woods, or unfortunately, you can also find it during this time of year. There's a lot of really serious storms happening and hurricanes. This is something that actually results from those storms as well. And it is a silent and potentially deadly danger that just lingers for all of us out there.
A silent but deadly danger that lingers, huh? Okay.
So,
all right. Where are you going with this?
So, as naturalists, one of the topics that we tend to teach with kids especially is survival, like basic needs, basic survival for humans. We use something called the rule of 3 to help teach that. It gives averages of what people can survive without. And one of the main ones that you have to really think about within the first, how the rule of 3 works is 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks. And it just goes on like that, right?
Without some key thing you need, right?
Exactly, without some key thing. And that's the average people. Sometimes you can go a little longer, sometimes you can't go quite that long, right?
Yep.
Well, one of the basic human needs people have is water. On average, people can last about 3 days without fresh water. You're miserable during that time. You're going to have the worst headache, among other things. But generally, you can survive 3 days without water.
Yeah, in extreme conditions, yeah.
Right. But you can't just drink any water.
No.
Right.
So often in those abandoned buildings, in haunted houses, in the woods, there's something just sitting there. And it can be just standing water. Little do you know that that is probably one of the more dangerous things that you can do. You might be really thirsty in that survival situation, but you really shouldn't go for that water. In fact, if you see stagnant water, you should probably turn around and leave that area.
That's the worst kind of water.
Mm-hmm. So water that sits for as little as 6 days. So when I say sit, I mean it doesn't have movement. There's no current flowing through it. There's no fresh water being added or drainage or anything like that. If it's just sitting there for as little as 6 days, the composition of the water will change. Bacteria, mold, mildew, all are starting to grow within that water.
Yeah.
This was actually something that was really affected a lot of businesses after during the COVID shutdown. It was really important for people who went into their new businesses because no one was using the water sources at their businesses. They had to flush and recycle because water just sitting will start to leach the metals from the pipes, and all of the disinfectants and everything that water companies use to get the water to you safely degrade and allow the water to actually become an issue, more or less. So they had to flush their water systems.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So as water sits, especially in pipes, or even just sitting water, whatever it's sitting on, be it the ground, the concrete, or in a metal pipe, it'll start to leach that material, that metal into the water. If it is sitting there for too long, it can actually lead to lethal levels of copper, if it's copper piping.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
For people.
I mean, obviously lead is obvious, but I didn't realize it could be lethal copper levels just from water sitting in a pipe.
Mm-hmm. So it can cause many issues if you drink that kind of water. Anywhere from nausea and headaches to vomiting, or you can even contract a waterborne disease. So.
Oh, yeah.
And without saying, or I'm going to say it, with a lot of standing water, especially those produced from storms or in the woods, can be contaminated with feces from both people and animals.
Sure can.
So that's not great.
Nope.
So let's talk about a couple of things that you can get from stagnant water. This is my topic this week. I want to talk about standing water and just how awful it can be.
Unfortunately,
gross.
Quite relevant for some of our neighbors in North Carolina right now.
Unfortunately.
Absolutely.
That's why I kind of thought this would be a good one to talk about. My aunt and uncle are going through the hurricane in Florida right now. So they're safe, thankfully. But yeah. So things you can get from stagnant water.
Let's do it.
Some of the things that you can get, E. coli will breed in stagnant water, so that can lead to a lot of really awful sickness. E. coli is most commonly known for when you get sick from food and things like that. I'm forgetting what it's called, but
sure.
It's really common.
It's basically your quintessential poop bacteria.
Pretty much. Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah.
Many other different types of bacteria have been traced back to stagnant water. Anywhere, some of them can actually cause pneumonia. Some of that mold can cause respiratory and can cause a type of pneumonia because the spores burst in the water. Like if you touch it or drink it or anything, the spores will transfer to your lungs.
Oh, yeah.
And can cause a bacteria pneumonia. It can also cause, you can get leptospirosis from stagnant water. There is lots and lots of it's caused by a bacteria, leptospirea species. And leptospirosis, for a fun little breakdown for everyone to know, is
let us know. What does that do?
It is a blood infection, and you could be fine at first, but if you let it keep going, it can cause and lead to bleeding in your lungs, meningitis.
No, don't like that.
Liver and kidney liver and kidney failure.
I mean, I don't really like the flavor of either of those things, so I don't want that.
Yeah, well, failure.
Oh, failure. Yes,
and
that's jaundice. Probably worse.
And like headaches and other things like that, it can cause stomach bleeding as well. That is the more severe reaction. That being said, there are about 1 million cases of leptospirosis every single year, and it's at almost 60,000 deaths.
Oh, wow.
So,
whoa.
I mean, this
is worldwide, I assume.
This is worldwide, yes. It tends to happen more in tropical spaces. But still, like, that's not great.
I've heard of this. I know, I've heard of this with dogs, too.
Mm-hmm. It can affect
There's a common one for dogs to get.
Oh, yeah.
They're drinking water, like every puddle they walk past and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Don't let your dogs drink out of the puddles. It's bad. Don't do it. Because it can also cause, like, vomiting and swelling and things like that, too. Let's not forget our dear friend, the mosquitoes, who love stagnant and standing water. That's where they breed. Mm-hmm. So anywhere that there is stagnant water and you get mosquitoes, that can cause any sort of mosquito-borne disease, such as malaria or dengue fever, can be traced back to stagnant and standing water. Yeah. So slightly terrifying, little more existential Halloween topic for this week. Thinking about stagnant and standing water. Make sure you keep your water flowing, folks. It's really important. And if you're struggling with there are Red Cross and everything is working really hard to make sure people have access to running and clean water.
Yeah.
So my sources.
Do you think any kids are going as stagnant water for Halloween this year?
No, but they should.
And what would that costume look like?
Would you just be a puddle?
How?
But you couldn't move, right? So that would be challenging.
What if you have around you have a drawing of a puddle and you're just standing in it, like in galoshes or whatever? Or you could be like Lady of the Puddle type thing.
Yeah, you have a barrel around you with water in it that's really green and nasty.
Yeah.
Sounds
that wouldn't work, say, here where it sometimes snows on Halloween, but somewhere that could work.
I hate to tell you this. We already got our first snow today.
No.
Yeah. Not at my house, but just a half hour
I hate
north.
that, Rachel.
I know.
No. Not ready for that. I'm enjoying fall right now. You guys can keep your snow up there to yourselves.
Happy Halloween.
I am not putting in an order. I do not want any. There are still lots of leaves in my yard that I have to mulch and such, so no snow yet.
Well, my sources this week was a great website, PuroClean, Wikipedia, the World Health Organization had a great resource on standing water. Rochester Midland Corporation and the City of Madison had a whole article about reopening after COVID and stagnant water. So
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, the hidden terror of stagnant
hidden
water.
terror that we know about that we don't think about.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yikes. Well, thank you. Happy Halloween
to
both of you.
Happy Halloween.
We did it.
I'm getting ready to go eat a whole bunch of candy.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to ask here, often we save stuff for our patrons, but I want to do this one for everybody. What's your favorite candy?
Ooh.
I feel like we've done this before, haven't we?
Maybe.
Could be. I'm like, you look in the trick-or-treat bag. What's the one that you're like, yes, I got it?
Almond Joy.
Skittles.
Almond Joy. I just saw someone on, I think it was on Reddit, post a picture. Someone had brought Almond Joys into work and put them in a basket.
I saw that too.
Yeah, and someone just dumped them all in the trash, and it was like, no one likes Almond Joys.
Oh my
Which
god.
is such a
I'm like, well, someone must
move.
like Almond Joys.
I like
Turns out it's you.
Mounds better
You're the one.
than Almond Joys, I think. But I think as I've gotten older, I like Almond Joys better. But I gotta go with my fruity Skittles. I love good Skittles.
Yeah. I prefer
Ooh,
the dark chocolate of Mounds, but I like the almond of Almond Joy. So if you could combine them and have the almond and the dark chocolate, that would be perfect.
Agreed, Victoria. That would be amazing.
Yes.
Do they not have a dark chocolate version?
I don't think so.
They must.
Not that I've seen.
Not that they're handing out on Halloween. Huh?
No.
What about you, Kirk? What's your favorite?
Yeah.
You know, over the years, it's like it's changed. When I was a kid, I really liked like a Nestle Crunch bar.
Love a good Nestle Crunch.
I liked the whatchamacallit when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Until one day I noticed that it said it had caramel in it. And then I insisted that they had changed it, and it never had it in because it changed. I didn't like it anymore. And I'm not sure if they actually did change it and add caramel and it didn't have it, or if I just realized it had caramel and then didn't like it anymore because I'm not a big caramel fan.
The
I
second
think like
sounds more likely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think it's a guilty pleasure thing because it's not good. Like it is not a good candy bar, but Kit Kats.
Ooh.
Like
I love a good Kit Kat.
Yeah.
I know, but when you stop and think about it, it's like
it's a little wafer
on the inside, which is not real high quality, and it's covered with like the cheapest, waxiest stuff that I'm not sure they're even legally allowed to call chocolate anymore. It's like chocolate flavored confection or something.
Yeah.
But there's just a nostalgia that I enjoy. I like
delicious.
I do like a good peanut butter cup.
Yeah, that's nice.
Although
they have made
them. I had one the other day, and they have made them smaller, which is like really weird. But you know what I really actually appreciate is just a really good chocolate. It's like a good. I like a semi-sweet chocolate where it's that's kind of my wheelhouse right there. Love it. Give me a chocolate bar. I'm happy.
Will say,
with the Kit Kats, though, they do sell a dark chocolate Kit Kat, and then they have like some different flavor ones. Especially if you go to Japan, Kit Kat is huge there, and you can get
it's very
amazing,
big
different flavors.
And like in Scandinavia, and especially in Norway, they have like a big Kit Kat. That's like it's a much larger, chonky thing you're biting into. So
that's fun.
I've heard those are real good there. Some of our Norwegian listeners, let me know if you've had the big giant Kit Kats.
Yeah. Kirk, I will raise you on guilty pleasure of like something that's actually terrible. You know those not Tootsie Rolls, but the fruity flavored ones?
Well, Tootsie Rolls are objectively terrible, yeah.
Oh.
Without the fruit flavored Tootsie Roll?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oof.
I love the orange, lemon, and the lime of those types of Tootsie Rolls. I can't not eat them.
All right. Well, you can have all of mine, Rachel.
Oh, sounds great.
I have had something worse than a Tootsie Roll. That is a Necco wafer.
Oh, yeah.
I've never
chalk
been so disgusted by something that I was told was candy in my life. It's like biting into I would say this. I was going to date myself by saying go to a school and get a piece of chalk. They don't use that anymore. But if you can imagine just getting a piece of sidewalk chalk, like kids use, and slice it into wafers and just chew up the sidewalk chalk, that's probably going to taste better than a Necco wafer. Oh. And I know someone listening is right now saying they love a Necco wafer. And all I can say is, have you tried candy? Because candy's pretty good and doesn't taste like chalk. So I'm just a little confused by people who, and it's a nostalgia thing. It's like, if you never had a Kit Kat before, you probably try it and be like, this is not good. I think Necco wafers make conversation hearts taste good. And that is saying something.
Those. I also hate candy corn.
I think they're actually maybe made by the same company, actually. But.
I do kind of like candy corn. If it's fresh, get some fresh candy corn. Usually it's stale by the time you get it, but good fresh candy corn.
Yep. It's fine.
It's very sweet, though. Gotta got to take it slow.
Can't do it.
Well, we got some candy to go eat. I hope you all get some candy. Most of you listening are adults. Go buy whatever candy you want. And that's how this really works. So we buy the candy we want in a quantity larger than what children will take from our homes. And then we're like, oh no, I bought too much candy, and we eat what we want. So
that's right.
Just go buy yourself some candy. That's how this works.
It's that.
We give you permission. It's that simple. All right, enjoy your candy, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.